and welcome to In the Rising podcast. My name is Bettina Brown, and this is the platform I've chosen to talk about living a life that's in alignment with your hopes, your dreams, and your goals. Walking away from the shame and the blame that so many of us carry for a variety of different reasons. And my show today is really focusing on health. My guest is Amanda Love, who is the author of the Fibro Fix, who herself has fibromyalgia and shares a little bit more about this diagnosis and what can be done about it, because there's just this huge black box of question marks. And so I look forward to having you listen to today's show to learn more with Amanda Love. Well, thank you very much, Amanda, for being here on In the Rising podcast. I'm really thrilled that you're here because you have so much to offer people with fibromyalgia. You said you yourself suffered through fibromyalgia, but for a lot of people, they have heard of it, but they don't really know what it is. Can we start off at that point?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. They're still trying to figure it out right now. A lot of times people tell me like, oh, it's a neurological issue. And then some people are like, well, it's like arthritis, because everybody goes to the rheumatologist to get diagnosed with it usually, or your primary doctor. But there's recent research that's come out saying it's an autoimmune disease. The whole thing about it is, okay, whatever it is there some way you could get better from it? Mm-hmm. Let's not focus what it is, but how we could get better from it.
Do you feel that with your story, which I'd like you to share, that it took a while to get to some sort of, this is what we think it is?
Yeah, my story's interesting because I started really sick. I was sick constantly, antibiotics all the time. I was born 6 weeks early, couldn't get off the couch. I was in so much pain. I was so fatigued. And I had turned 20 years old at the time. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't do the things I wanted to do in life. And 10 months later, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia at the age of 20 years old.
And so when you had this diagnosis, did you feel like you had any resources available to you?
That is a very good question. Yeah. What I remember, because this has almost been 11 years, the only thing I remember is the rheumatology people saying, well, you're going to have to go on the medication. You're going to have to do the physical therapy. And I did the medication. I just felt horrible on the medication. I only did it for a few days. I'm not going to do something for the next 60 years if it doesn't make me feel better. And they handed me a brochure explaining what fibromyalgia is. And then they said, okay, do physical therapy. I did weight training. I did swimming. And I think the big thing I tell people is 10 months, like a year before, I had completed a personal training program. So I wasn't ever overweight. And that's what I tell people. You don't have to have fibromyalgia and you're overweight. It's not like an overweight condition. Like, I was healthy. I looked normal. Like, that's the thing with fibromyalgia. Mm-hmm. And you just go down this slippery slope of trying to find answers.
And when you said look normal, do you feel that people, friends or family, or sometimes even other providers have a hard time seeing that there's a struggle when you quote unquote look normal?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think that's why am I getting sick constantly? Why was I always dealing with congestion, sinus infections, sore throats, headaches, fatigue? Why was I dealing with all of that? And I looked normal, and my blood tests would come back, and everything was in the ranges, and everything just looked normal. And they didn't have any answers.
Yeah. With that, you were in your early 20s when you were diagnosed. Did this diagnosis shift like what you wanted to do when you grow up? Because or did you do any shifting while you were looking for your own answers?
Yeah. So for me, I was always into fitness at a very young age. I was born in the 90s, so Leslie Simpson, like walking DVDs, Pilates. And when I went into high school, it started the weight training. Never been an athlete, so I didn't have that experience or something, but for whatever reason, I just loved fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went into fitness, did that personal training program, 6 months, 500 hours, completed that. And right after that, that's when the fibromyalgia started. That's when I turned 20 and I was so sick and everything. I wanted to go right after that personal training program. I was like, I want to do nutrition. I knew nutrition played a huge part. I just couldn't do that for a couple years. So I don't think it really changed my direction, maybe a little bit.
And you are now a registered holistic nutritionist. Can you explain what that is? So when someone says, okay, this is a nutritionist, this is a holistic nutritionist, that they're not just like, well, what does that really mean?
I need to learn about how the body works, the body systems, the immune systems, the digestive systems. The sad thing is right now, it's like anybody could call themselves a health coach, a nutritionist. That's the thing in the US. If you're listening in the US, you really have to look at people's education, but you also have to look at, did they go through that health issue too? Right? Nutrition is not a black and white subject. And I think that's the problem. I think we think, oh, one thing's going to fix me and I'll be all better. And no, it's holistic is mindset, your lifestyle changes, your environmental changes, your supplements, what you're eating, what you're not eating. It's a whole approach. It's not just one thing.
And with that, you said lifestyle, because a lot of us, when we think about nutrition, it's like, oh gosh, someone's going to sit there and figure out all, and not that that's not part of your program,
Right.
But what I have calories and then I have to do macros. It goes back into these details where you feel that food may be restrictive. But when you're doing this lifestyle, what it sounds like, you're looking at everything involved. It's not just what your meal plan will be or your meal prep.
Right. I'm not big on the whole calories thing or anything like that. What foods are nourishing to your body and stuff? What can you do to get that energy back up or that sleep? And like you said, the lifestyle. How is your stress? Because I think a lot of times we look at we are go, go, go in this society, even though we're stuck at home, probably, but somehow people are still doing a lot more than they should be doing. It hasn't slowed down. Nobody has slowed down. And what are your relationships? Are your relationships dragging you down? Maybe you need to set some boundaries with that.
Yeah. And looking at everything, because you can eat everything well, but if you're in a constant state of stress and have all these other hormones happening, it doesn't always work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
No. And a lot of times we eat as we're watching TV on the computer. We're not in that relaxed state of mind. We're not sitting down for the meal. And if you have kids, you might be eating standing up. You're not sitting down. You're feeding the kids and you're eating. So it's all a relaxed state and just taking that time for yourself.
Yeah. So basically sitting at a table and enjoying the conversation, that we actually eat differently when we're alone versus amounts versus having a meal with other people, that, single people eat differently than if they're in the relationship, because we are affected by these circumstances and to be aware of that. What about, you are also a writer and podcaster. Can you explore and expand on that a little bit for who's listening?
Yeah. So I've written a magazine article. I've done that. And I do have a book. I've written a chapter for a book, and it's a trauma book. I don't know exactly when that's going to come out. I'm hoping by the end of this year. And I'm constantly writing content and stuff. But with the podcast, it's called Fibromyalgia, Real Solutions with Amanda Love. And I just created it because I wanted people to know you can get better with your health concerns. And I think that's what people need to know. It's more than fibromyalgia. I've had a lot of guests who are like trauma experts, mindset experts. I've had a friend who's a scientist. And then I've actually started a series where I have people tell their stories of hope. And that's the biggest thing. I've shared my story, which is episode 2 and 31 on my podcast, my full story. But I've also like now got into this point where I'm like, I have other people in this world who have amazing stories. So I have these stories because I want people to realize you can, whatever you're doing in life, you could rise above it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can. And you are, currently working out of Austin, Texas is where your home base is. Because my podcast is called In the Rising. Where do you see yourself still rising to? What's on the horizon for Amanda?
I've committed to a few things. 2 things I haven't talked about on podcasts yet is I really want to do speaking. So like speaking, local speaking, any type of speaking. I've done a lot of podcasts. So speaking is like a big thing. And then the second thing is media. So any type of media, TV, radio, that type of thing. Because I want my message to be spread across the world that you can get better with your health. You can get better with your fibromyalgia. You're not stuck in that pain. You're not stuck in that fatigue. And I'm at this point in my life where I'm ready for the next challenge. I'm ready to push myself, even though it sort of scares me, but I'm ready to push myself to do these goals.
Wow. Well, that is wonderful. So you have a lot to offer people with fibromyalgia. It's not a diagnosis that's just like, boom, life is over. And that, there's still a huge part of the medical community that feels this is really not an existent. This is a fake diagnosis. Like there is hope. There is validation from other people, and they can seek you out as a resource. And go ahead and share your website. I have it listed here, but go ahead and share how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so my website's amandaleaselove.com, and my social media is Amanda Lease Love. Everything is my name, Facebook, Instagram, and then the podcast, Fibromyalgia, Real Solutions with Amanda Love. And that's on every platform.
I hope that you gain some knowledge about fibromyalgia and how to seek out someone who can help you in a holistic manner, looking at your mind, your body, your soul, because really your mind, body, and soul is going through everything regardless of what the health condition is. And so thank you so much for spending time with me today, because you know what? Time is something you don't get back. If you feel this podcast today is of value, go ahead and share it with someone. It does so much to put it in the hands and ears of those that it can create value and positive change. And until next time, let's keep building one another up.